I don't know if you know this, but this is the most bet prop on the Super Bowl every single year. I have no idea why. I personally have never bet the coin toss. But what got me thinking about the coin, and so you can see it right here. This is the official coin, official game coin. Now, this is going to be one of the coins that they are going to flip at the opening coin toss. Ron Torbert is the head referee. You've heard from Joe Gibbs about his insights onto what team he thinks Ron Torbert might favor, or more specifically, what types of penalties this crew might be more likely or less likely to call, and how that could play into some of the strengths and weaknesses of the teams. But Ron Torbert is probably going to be handing this off to somebody who is then going to flip this coin. And what got me to thinking about this coin is that every single, a while ago, one of my good friends, Bill Krakenberger, told me a story about how one year the Super Bowl coin, because you can't bet on the coin toss for anything else, but one year the Super Bowl coin was not properly distributed from a mass perspective. There was too much mass on one side. It weighed too much, and they had a good idea as to the outcome of that coin toss. And so you even if you think it's going to land 54%, 55% due to some distribution, it's not like you're not going to have 45% go the other way. But they hit and got down a lot on that Super Bowl betting the coin toss. What we are going to have, since I know nothing about the coin toss, we're going to have a guy who has studied the coin toss in depth, along with a bunch of other novelty props. And he has a little bit of a track record of betting some of these things. He's going to come on, talk about the history of the coin toss, talk about the history of the coin. This specific coin was minted by Highland Mint. And they didn't always mint the coins. And he's got all the backstory on what's going on with Highland Mint. What we're going to do is we're just going to flip and track. Here we go. Our first coin toss. We're going to just start flipping this thing. First flip is heads. Now this is the head side, by the way, the logo side. Now this side is a little bit more raised. The tail side got the two team logos. So you can just remember, I always like mnemonic devices. Tails is teams, heads is the logo. Okay, tails is teams, heads is the logo. I'm just going to flip this, and in a minute we're going to be welcoming in our first guest. Tails. I'm going to do this tails, heads, tails, tails, heads, heads, tails, heads. So with that said, do we have Edward backstage? If we've got Edward backstage, tails, let's bring on Edward.
Hey.
There he is. Okay, Edward. So I'm introducing you as a novelty prop and Super Bowl coin flip historian. So why don't you first talk to us a little bit about the coin, like your background in kind of how you got into like looking at some of these interesting markets.
Well, always found like the novelty props fun, especially for the Super Bowl. I was the one who bet on Adam Levine to take off his shirt during the halftime show and won a couple of years ago.
Now, let me ask you this. Did you get a hit? Did he do this? How do you handicap something like that ahead of time? Why did you decide to bet on that?
I have a friend who's a huge Maroon 5 fan, and he kind of gave me he's been to a lot of concerts, says he takes off his shirt almost every show. So I was like, okay,
okay. So, yeah, that's good.
So I bet yes he would. It was a prop, and got some money there. So that was fun. And then just love the coin flip, the national anthem, Gatorade bath, although that one's kind of a toss up. And then the halftime show in general. And I also like Oscar bets and stuff like that too. So they're just fun. They're a little bit different. It's more exciting.
Coin down. Keep rolling.
I see the heads are winning right now. That's interesting. But because of that, over the years, I've done a ton of research on the heads and tails and the Super Bowl coins to kind of know where we are and what's been going on. So some things I found, which is very interesting, is this. The Highland Mint, which is the coin you have in your hand right there. They started making the coin in 1994. That was the first Super Bowl they did between the Dallas Cowboys, and the Bills. Obviously, the Bills lost that one. But since then, they've been making the coin. For a while, they were kind of making it to where heads was the 2 football helmets from the teams and the Super Bowl trophy, and the back was just the NFL logo. Then they started going in between and kind of making it so one side was the logos of the teams and the other side was the actual, LIX or whatever it would be, the year of the Super Bowl in the numerals. So interesting stats is overall, in the history of the NFL Super Bowl coin toss, 28 times heads, 30 times tails. So pretty even there. The longest head streak is 5 in a row, and the longest tail streak is 4 in a row. However, that has happened 3 times, tails. Last 18 years since they started kind of putting the Roman numerals on one side and the teams on the other, heads 10, tails 8. So heads have kind of made a comeback here recently. The last 10, tails 6, heads 4. The last 5, heads 3, tails 2. So pretty evenly matched here throughout the years. So looking for a trend here that says, okay, this is crazy, right? I found one. And it has to do with the actual Roman numerals on the head side of the coin. During the 30s, the Super Bowl 30 stretch, where Roman numerals, we had 4 or more during that stretch. Tails hit 9 out of 10 times.
Oh, slow down. 9 out of 10 tails. During the years when we had 4 Roman numerals on the coin. So
correct.
This is not a flip. Don't count this one, but we're going to hold the coin back here. So this is the head side, and obviously we only have 3.
Yep. So like Super Bowl 32, 5 Roman numerals, tails. 33, tails. 34, tails. 35, tails. And then, interesting enough, the St. Louis, New England Super Bowl, which was 36, heads. And then the next 3, all tails. It didn't take until we went down to lower Roman numerals until the heads started having their streak and kind of a comeback. So maybe because there's so many numerals on the front, it makes it a little bit heavier. Therefore, it's more likely to drop face down, leaving the tails up. So that's the only crazy trend I could ever find. I'm thinking it's going to be a heads. Heads, again, have been winning lately with the last 5. I'm kind of leaning towards heads this year. I know people say tails never fails, but heads has also been 3 of the last 4. And with the lower numerals. And by the way, 2 years ago, we had 4 numerals, and that landed tails, which means the heavier side with 4 Roman numerals was face down.
And these are all with Highland Mint, right? Was Highland
Correct.
Mint doing the years that they had the 4 that hit
yes,
tails 9 of 10 years because the head side was landing down?
Highland Mint has been doing it, like I said, since 1994. Before that, interesting enough, it was whatever coin the ref had in their pocket. It's been $50, silver dollars, quarters. Whatever they had was the coin they used up until 1994. Yeah, there was really no one ever really knew.
Wait, so Highland Mint was the only one that ever did this? They didn't change mints. They just, prior to Highland Mint doing it in 94, you said?
Yep,
they just had the ref grabbed a penny out of his pocket and flipped it?
Yep, ever since Super Bowl 1.
Now, let me ask you this. I read that these guys at Highland Mint, they don't actually weigh these to determine if the sides are fair. Right. In other words, they don't flip it. They don't test it beforehand. They just make the mold based upon the logo of the Super Bowl that year and the teams that are playing in it. And that just becomes the mold. So there isn't any sort of testing done to determine if it is properly balanced or something.
Not at all. A couple of years ago when the Rams and the Bengals faced off in the Super Bowl, that was a weird one because instead of having the logos on the back, they had the logos and the AFC and NFC logo. So they just kind of put different type of tails. The heads is pretty consistent now. It's always the Super Bowl logo with the Roman numerals. The back, they switched it up. Then a few years ago, we had the 100th season when the NFL 100, and that was on the back. So they don't weigh it at all because it's hard to kind of determine. It's all based on branding and all that good stuff as well. And they don't want to make them too similar every year because then they're not as collectible, right? And this is all about being collectible and making money. That's why the Highland Mint does it. So, yeah, they don't weigh them at all. They just kind of do their thing and put them out there. So, but like I've seen, and I said, the more Roman numerals It seems to be a little bit heavier on that head side.
One thing's very important to note. This is just for shits and giggles. This is just to bide some time here, honestly. But B, if you are betting this, you should not be going out to bet it someplace that does not have this at even money on both sides. And I've actually seen a sports bettor out there, Steve Fezzik. He mentioned that you could try to increase your some of your bonuses and things like that if you do bet the coin toss a little bit. But you should be finding the books that have even money on both sides. I know DK does. And if you guys in the chat know of any other spots that do have even money, that is where you should be betting it. So Ian says ESPN Bet also has the coin toss at even money. I'm going to do 3 more. We're at 130 now. Let's do 3 more. 1, 2, 3. All right, so that's going to be the final count for the coin toss. 53.5% was heads. The rest was tails.